Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
There's a town in eastern Kentucky called Wren Hollow. You won't find it on any current map, and if you try to GPS it, you'll just end up circling a series of dirt roads that eventually disappear into thick woods. The town used to have a population of about 300 people, miners mostly, and their families. But around 1978, Wren Hollow went completely dark. No phone calls, no mail in or out. Eventually, the state sent someone out to check, but by then, it was too late. The story starts with the radio silence. It wasn't just power outages. It was like the entire town dropped off the face of the earth. Family members from out of state said they couldn't get through to their relatives. No calls answered, letters returned unopened, marked undeliverable. People were still being paid, strangely. Paychecks were cashed from the one bank in town. But when a delivery truck driver from Lexington drove in for a scheduled drop-off, he didn't come back. That's when authorities were finally dispatched. When the first search team arrived, they found Wren Hollow looking perfectly intact. Houses were there, mailboxes lined the street, a few laundry lines still hung with stiff shirts fluttering in the wind, but not a single person was found. No signs of violence, no blood, no chaos, just silence, a whole town empty, except for one house. At the very end of Main Street stood a white, two-story home with a sagging porch and wind chimes that never seemed to stop ringing, even when there was no wind. The search team found the front door slightly ajar. Inside, it looked like the occupants had been in the middle of dinner, plates on the table, a radio playing softly in the corner, though the song looped unnaturally, repeating the same 30 seconds over and over. Upstairs, in a small bedroom, they found the only human remains in the entire town. A woman sitting in a rocking chair, completely still. They initially thought she was alive. Her eyes were open, her skin pale but not decomposed. But when they touched her, she crumbled. Literally, like ash. The whole body disintegrated into dust, leaving only the rocking chair and her clothes intact. The team pulled out immediately. They called in hazmat units, assuming some kind of chemical or airborne agent. But no toxins were found. No trace of radiation, no biological hazards. Just that one pile of ash. Then the recording started. The investigators had body cams. One of them, a guy named Holcomb, had gone into a basement under what appeared to be a general store. In the footage, he walks down a creaking staircase, flashlight cutting through the dark. About halfway down, he stops. He says, "Do you hear that?" But no one else responds. On the tape, there's a low hum like static that gets louder the deeper he goes. Then there's a voice. It's not Holcomb's. It's distant, female, whispering something unintelligible. The footage cuts out after that. They found the body cam later on the steps outside the basement with a single smear of blood on it. Holcomb was never found. After 2 more agents disappeared, they shut the investigation down. All access roads were blocked. The entire town was quarantined and officially labeled a hazard site. No official reason given. And here's where it gets worse. Every few years, someone ignores the warnings. Urban explorers, paranormal investigators, teenagers looking to go viral. None of them make it back. In 2009, a college student live-streamed his entry into Wren Hollow. He joked around, pointed at the houses, mentioned the creepy vibes. About 20 minutes in, he started hearing the wind chimes. Then he found the same house at the end of the street. The last 10 seconds of his stream showed the camera pointing down a hallway. In the very back of the frame, barely visible, was a woman standing in the shadows. She didn't move. She didn't blink. But as the screen glitched, you could just make out her face. Hollow eyes and a mouth stretched unnaturally wide. The camera dropped to the floor. The stream ended. Authorities found the equipment, but not the student. The house had been empty again, of course. No sign of the woman. But the wind chimes were still ringing. They never stopped ringing. And at night, if you stand just outside the barricades, you might hear footsteps on the road. Slow, deliberate, getting closer. That's when most people run. But some wait. They say once you hear her voice, it never really leaves you. It starts as a whisper in your dreams. Then you start to see her, reflections, shadows, always in the corner of your eye. And eventually, if you don't leave it alone, if you dig too deep, you end up like the others. Ash in a rocking chair.
Story number 2.
Back in the 90s, there was a town called Merrill Creek, tucked deep in the forests of Oregon. It was the kind of place with one stoplight, two churches, and a single diner where everyone knew your name. Quiet, uneventful, until one winter when a girl named Lacey Dunn vanished. She was 17, walked home from her part-time shift at the diner every night. It was less than a mile, and she took the same wooded trail behind the post office. On December 3rd, she left at 10:42 p.m. She never got home. No struggle, no signs of foul play. Her footprints just stopped halfway through the trail like she'd been lifted straight off the ground. The town grieved. Flyers went up. Search parties scoured the woods for weeks, but there was nothing. Until 6 months later. In June, her little brother Milo came running into town, screaming that he'd seen Lacey in the woods. His arms were covered in deep scratches, and he kept repeating, "She's not right. She's not right anymore." No one believed him. They thought it was grief, trauma, but then other kids started saying it too. They saw a girl standing between the trees near the trail, pale skin, same green jacket Lacey wore the night she vanished, but her eyes were pitch black. No whites, no pupils, and she didn't blink. She just watched. If you made eye contact, she'd smile this slow, crooked grin and disappear. One boy, Kyle Benson, went out to prove it was a hoax, took his dad's camcorder. The tape they found later was about 4 minutes long. It starts with him talking trash into the camera, laughing. Then the footage jumps, no transition, no static, just a hard cut. And Kyle's face is suddenly dead serious. He's whispering, "She's here. I don't think it's her. I don't think it's really her." Then he screams. The camera falls. All you see is the ground, leaves, branches. Then a pale hand enters the frame, fingers bending backward at impossible angles, dragging the camera slowly out of view. They never found Kyle. Not his body. Not a trace. That summer, sightings increased. A total of 12 people vanished in and around the woods, always on cloudy nights, always near the trail where Lacey disappeared. The town begged the sheriff to close the woods. He finally agreed after his own son came home catatonic, eyes wide open, bleeding from the nose, unable to speak. He still hasn't spoken. Then came the fire. One night without warning, the forest around Merrill Creek caught fire. No lightning, no storm. Just a wall of flame that surrounded the entire town in a perfect circle. Not a single structure was touched. Only the trees. The trail burned completely. When the fire crews came, they said it looked unnatural, controlled, like someone had traced the fire around the town like a ritual. After that night, the sightings stopped. No more black-eyed Lacey, no more missing people. But here's the part most people don't know. Last year, a hiker posted a photo on Reddit of a strange clearing he found in the Oregon wilderness. He didn't know the story of Merrill Creek. He just thought the trees looked oddly burned in a perfect ring. In the middle of the clearing, there was a rusted name tag, half buried in the dirt. It said, "Merrill Creek Diner." The post was deleted within hours. His account too. Some say the forest still remembers, that the trail's curse wasn't broken, just contained. And if you find the right patch of woods on the wrong kind of night, you might hear leaves crunch behind you. You might hear a voice call your name. And if you turn around, you better pray she doesn't smile.
Story number 3.
In the flat heart of Nebraska, there's an old farming village called Elber Vale that doesn't appear on modern maps. Ask a local about it, and most will tell you it never existed. But there are land records, old ones, nearly a century back, that prove otherwise. It was real, and something buried that truth. The story goes back to 1931 during a brutal drought. The crops had died, the wells were drying up, and the people of Elber Vale were desperate. One night, the town's preacher, Father Harmon, called for a prayer meeting in the small white chapel at the center of the village. Nearly everyone came, hoping for rain, salvation, something. But what happened inside the church that night was not a prayer meeting. No one who survived ever said exactly what occurred. What's known as this: by dawn, the chapel was locked from the inside, and no one answered the door. The sheriff eventually broke it down. What he found inside made him vomit on the steps. Everyone was dead. 32 bodies, all seated quietly in the pews, as if they were still listening to a sermon. Their eyes were missing, not gouged or cut, just gone. Smooth skin where the eyes should be. There was no blood, no sign of struggle. Just the preacher, Father Harmon, standing at the pulpit with a massive grin carved into his face, ear to ear, with his own church key. The town was abandoned within a week. For years, it was left alone. Locals started calling it the Blind Town. No one wanted to go near it. But in 1972, a group of college anthropology students from Lincoln went to explore it for a research project. The town was overgrown, broken down, but the chapel still stood. They camped near it for 3 nights. Only one of them came back. The survivor, a girl named Jillian Moore, was found wandering the highway barefoot, muttering scripture backward. Her eyes were swollen shut. When she finally calmed down enough to talk, she kept repeating, "We looked into the dark too long. It saw us." She spent the rest of her life in a psychiatric hospital. Every night she would scream at exactly 3:33 a.m. They had to sedate her to stop it. The tapes recovered from the student's handheld recorder were mostly garbled static, but one segment, about 5 minutes long, had clear audio. It starts with the students laughing, joking around near the chapel steps. Then a bell chimes, even though no bell was in the church. After that, everything goes silent for exactly 13 seconds. Then a whisper, "Come in, let me show you what he left behind." The last thing you hear is someone crying and a dragging sound. Then nothing. The town is still out there. Locals say if you find it, and you shouldn't, you should never go into the chapel. Even if you hear voices, even if you see lights, especially if you see lights, because some say the town isn't dead, it just sleeps. And the preacher still waits at the pulpit, smiling that impossible smile, ready to welcome anyone who comes to listen